had my overnight bag in the trunk, my passport in my purse, and a to-go coffee in my hand when my sister opened the front door and said, "You're not actually coming with us." I laughed, because I thought she was joking. She wasn't. "We didn't buy you a ticket, Meg." She said it the way you'd tell someone they forgot to put the parking brake on. Casual, almost bored. "We figured you'd want to stay home with the dogs." I stood there on my parents' porch in suburban Columbus, Ohio, holding a coffee that suddenly tasted like nothing. I had taken Friday off work. I had arranged for my neighbor to check on my apartment. I had spent 3 weeks researching beaches in the Outer Banks, bookmarked the seafood restaurant my dad had been talking about for 2 years, bought a new swimsuit on sale at Target specifically for this trip. "Mom knew," I said. It wasn't even a question. I already knew the answer. My sister glanced back into the house. "We all talked about it. We just thought it would be easier this way." Easier? For who exactly? I drove home in a kind of fog. Not crying. Just empty. The kind of empty that happens when something so wrong occurs that your brain simply refuses to process it in real time. I sat in my parking garage for 11 minutes before I could make myself go upstairs. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while I was still in my coat. It was a Venmo request from my sister for $1,340. The memo said, "Your share of the beach house deposit and groceries. We already paid it up front." I stared at it until the screen went dark. Then I opened Venmo back up, typed in $1, and in the memo field I wrote, "Can't wait for your surprise." I hit send. Then I opened Google Flights. I should back up. I'm the middle child. My older sister, I'll call her my sister throughout this, is 34. She married her husband 6 years ago. They have 2 kids, a golden retriever, and a way of taking up all the oxygen in any room they walk into. My parents adore them. Not in the quiet, steady way they've always loved me, but in the loud, performative way that started sometime around when the grandkids arrived. I'm 31. I'm a paralegal. I live 20 minutes from my parents' house, which means I'm the one who drives my mom to her eye appointments and brings my dad soup when he's sick and picks up the slack every single time my sister is too busy. I have never once complained about this. I actually love being close to them. Or I did. The beach house trip had been in the group chat since February. My mom had found a place on the Outer Banks, 4 bedrooms, a private deck, walking distance to the water. The original plan was all of us. Me, my sister and her husband, my parents, and the 2 grandkids. 6 people, 4 days, split costs. My mom sent the listing and I immediately said I was in. I even offered to coordinate the grocery list. For 3 months, I was in the group chat. I was in the planning. I suggested the seafood restaurant. I was as far as I knew going on this trip. What I didn't know was that at some point, I still don't know exactly when, they had a separate conversation without me. A second group chat, and in that conversation, they decided the beach house would be better without me. More room, less drama. Those were the words my brother-in-law used, which I found out later. Less drama. I have never, in my adult life, caused a single moment of drama in my family. I am the one who absorbs everyone else's. They dropped me from the original group chat so gradually I didn't notice. The messages just slowed down. I assumed everyone was busy. They booked the house. They bought their groceries. They packed. And nobody said a word to me until my sister opened that front door and watched my face fall apart. The $1 Venmo landed in my sister's account at 10:47 a.m. She called me at 10,051. "That's really mature," she said. "I thought so," I said. "Meg, the total was legitimately split 6 ways. 5 ways," I said. "You split it 5 ways because there were 5 ways? Because there were 5 of you. I wasn't there when you booked it. I wasn't counted." Silence. "The deposit was already put in," she said finally. "We just thought since you were originally going to be part of it, I'm going to stop you there," I said, very calmly in the voice I use when I'm at work, and I need to be precise. "You removed me from the trip. You didn't tell me until I showed up with my bag. You are now asking me to pay for a portion of a vacation I was deliberately excluded from. Do you actually hear yourself?" She hung up. My dad called 20 minutes later. He didn't apologize. He said he hoped I understood that it wasn't personal, that they just thought it would be a good opportunity for him and my mom to spend quality time with the grandkids, and that I had plenty of weekends to do my own thing. My own thing. I thanked him for calling. I hung up. Then I went to the bathroom, sat on the edge of the tub, and let myself cry for exactly 5 minutes. I timed it. When the timer went off, I washed my face, went back to my laptop, and booked a flight to Raleigh-Durham for Thursday night. Round trip, $310. I also booked myself a room at a small inn about 2 miles from their beach house. Nothing fancy. Clean, quiet, had a little porch, $189 a night for 4 nights. I put it on my credit card and I did not feel 1 ounce of guilt about it. Then I started making calls. Here's something most people don't know about working as a paralegal for 8 years. You notice things. Inconsistencies, paper trails, the small, specific details that seem irrelevant till suddenly they aren't. 2 years ago, my grandmother passed away. She left behind a modest estate, a house, some savings, a small portfolio of CDs she'd been quietly building since the 1970s. Nothing dramatic. But she had a will. And in that will, she left equal shares to her 3 children, my mom, my Uncle Ray, and my aunt, who lives out in Phoenix. The estate was handled by my brother-in-law. He had his own financial planning firm, small but established. He'd offered to take it on, said it would save the family money on outside fees. Everyone agreed. He had the credentials, the office, the stationery. My mom trusted him completely. I had asked once, about 18 months ago, to see the final accounting. Just out of curiosity, just because it was in my nature. My brother-in-law said the documents were still being finalized. 8 months later, I asked again. My sister said he'd been really slammed with clients and I should stop making him feel like he was being interrogated. I let it go. I told myself I was being suspicious over nothing. But when I sat at my kitchen table that Thursday morning with 5 days off work and nothing to lose, I stopped letting it go. I have access to state probate records. This is public information. I pulled up my grandmother's estate filing and started reading. What I found took me about 45 minutes to locate and another 2 hours to fully understand. The final distribution recorded in the probate court showed 3 equal shares dispersed to the 3 beneficiaries. My mom, my uncle, and my aunt each received what appeared to be their correct portion on paper. But when I looked at the account numbers listed for the wire transfers, something felt off. 2 of the routing numbers matched legitimate accounts. The 3rd did not match anything affiliated with my Uncle Ray's name or any known account number he'd ever used. I called my uncle that afternoon. He picked up on the 2nd ring. "Did you receive your full distribution from Grandma's estate?" I asked. He paused just long enough. "Why are you asking?" "Just checking in," I said. "Did you?" Another pause. "I received something." "Your brother-in-law said there were processing fees that came out of the total, about 18%. 18%. That was not in any document I had seen. That was not in any document I had seen. That was not in the will. That was not a standard probate fee by any measure. "Uncle Ray," I said carefully, "can I ask you to do me a favor and pull together every document related to the estate distribution that you have?" He did. He emailed them to me that night. I spent Thursday evening cross-referencing everything I had against what was filed publicly in the probate court. By the time I went to bed, I had a 17-page document of discrepancies. I also had the name of an attorney who specialized in estate litigation and fiduciary fraud. I emailed her at 11,000 p.m. She responded at 7:45 a.m. Friday. She said she could do a consultation call at noon. I took that call from the porch of my little inn, 2 miles from the beach house where my family was having their quality time without me. The confrontation at the beach house was not planned. I want to be honest about that. I had not gone to the Outer Banks to cause a scene. I had gone because I was angry and hurt, and I needed to not be sitting in my apartment staring at that Venmo notification for 4 days. The attorney consultation had been a separate matter entirely, something I would have pursued regardless. But on Saturday afternoon, I was walking along the waterfront, because it's a free beach, and I could, when my niece spotted me from about 30 yards away and screamed my name and came running. You cannot ignore a 7-year-old running at you full speed. You just can't. I caught her, hugged her, and looked up to find my entire family standing 50 feet away, staring at me like I had materialized out of thin air. My mom's hand went to her mouth. My brother-in-law said, "What the hell?" My sister's face cycled through approximately 6 emotions in 4 seconds. My dad looked at my niece, then at me, then at my niece again, as though calculating whether any of this was real. "Hi," I said. "Beautiful day." My sister pulled my niece back to her side and walked toward me with the specific energy of someone who has decided they are not going to make a scene in public, but is absolutely going to make a scene. "What are you doing here?" "Visiting the coast," I said. "I had time off. Did you follow us here?" "The Outer Banks is a public beach. I found it the same way you did. Mom sent the listing to the group chat, the one I was in before you stopped including me." My brother-in-law put his hand on my sister's arm, not to comfort her, to steady himself. "We should head back," he said. "Actually," I said, still very calm, still using my work voice, "I'm glad you're all here. I wanted to let you know that I've retained an attorney. Estate litigation. I've also contacted the State Bar Association with some questions about fiduciary responsibility, and I've reached out to Uncle Ray, who it turns out has quite a few questions of his own." The color that left my brother-in-law's face in that moment is something I will remember for the rest of my life. My sister looked at him, then back at me. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about Grandma's estate," I said. "I'm talking about an 18% processing fee that appears nowhere in the official probate documents. I'm talking about a wire transfer that went somewhere it was not supposed to go." "That is a complete misunderstanding of how estate accounting works," my brother-in-law said. His voice was steady, but his jaw was doing something it wasn't supposed to do. "Maybe," I said. "My attorney and the state bar are going to help me figure that out." I looked at my mom. She was still standing back, still had her hand half raised near her face. She looked smaller than I remembered. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," I told her. And I meant it. I'm doing this because it's right, and because nobody else was going to. I walked back up the beach. The legal process that followed was not quick, and it was not simple, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. These things never are. My attorney filed a formal complaint with the state. The probate court opened the review. My brother-in-law's firm was audited. What the audit found was a pattern, not just with my grandmother's estate, but with 3 other clients whose assets had been quietly skimmed in the same way. Small enough amounts, in each case, that no single client would likely have noticed. Collectively, it was just over $200,000 across 4 estates over 6 years. He was referred to the state attorney general's office. He surrendered his financial planning license. He entered a guilty plea to 2 counts of fiduciary fraud and 1 count of financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. He was sentenced to 32 months, with restitution ordered to all affected parties. My uncle received a full corrected distribution plus interest. My mom, and this was the part I had not anticipated, also came forward. She had known or suspected for longer than she admitted. She had told herself it wasn't as bad as it looked. She had told herself my brother-in-law wouldn't do something really wrong. She had convinced herself, I think, that protecting the family peace was the same as protecting the family. She called me in October, 8 months after the beach. She cried in a way I had never heard her cry before. Not the kind of crying that's looking for reassurance. The kind that doesn't want anything except to be heard. I listened. I didn't fill the silence with forgiveness I hadn't yet found, but I didn't hang up either. My sister was a harder conversation. She had not known. I believed that, truly. But she had also not wanted to know. There's a difference between ignorance and willful blindness, and she had lived in that second category for a long time because it was comfortable, because it was easier. That word again. Easier. We are not close now. We are civil. I don't know if that changes. I still have that Venmo record. $1 and Mano. Can't wait for your surprise. My attorney thought it was funny. She printed it out and stuck it to her office whiteboard as a reminder that sometimes the smallest things crack open the biggest ones. I think about what my family thought I was when they decided not to include me. The one who would absorb it quietly. The one who'd stay home, take care of the dogs, keep the peace, and send the $1,340 without asking questions. They had 31 years of evidence that they were right about me. I think the part that surprised me most was not what I found and not what happened after. It was the moment on the beach when I realized I wasn't afraid. I had spent so much of my life managing everyone else's comfort that I had no idea what I was actually capable of when I stopped. I know now. My grandmother, if she were here, would probably say something dry and a little wicked and then offer to make tea. She was practical that way. She built those CDs quietly decade by decade because she believed in doing the small, careful, unglamorous work that adds up over time. I'd like to think she'd approve of how I spent my long weekend at the beach.